Welcome to 60 Skills. Today's question is, what is the best model for understanding metaphysics? There are many ways of dealing with metaphysics. Unfortunately, what I've seen over the years is that most people put far too much stress on the meta and not enough emphasis on the physics. The simple fact of the matter is the universe does not care about your personal philosophy, let alone your feelings. So in general, I found approaching the structure of the universe through an energetic paradigm tends to work best. Now, this is ultimately limited in one regard, and we will get to that in a moment. However, if you look at all of your meditative activities, the elements, the planets, your interactions with the various spirit figures, Kabbalah, an energetic theory or paradigm for dealing with these things works extremely well for the vast majority of what you're going to run into. All right, so let's explain this a little bit. So you start out with physical vital material. All right, this is the coarsest of the energies that most people deal with. When you learn how to convert this into astral, things get a little more refined. Convert it into mental, a little more so. Dealing with akasha, far more so. And finally, approaching non-dual light, that is the ultimate expression of consciousness and the point at which you have to reject the energetic model. But everything from the akashic level down works very well based off this energetic paradigm. So let's get into some details about this. A lot of people in meditative circles talk a lot about karma. You do something bad, you get punished for it. You do something good, you receive the benefit. All right, fair enough as a philosophical thought, but that doesn't really give you much of an action plan for taking care of your affairs. An energetic model, when applied to this, however, does. It simply states, the more of one kind of energy you have, the more of a like thing you're going to attract. This is a pretty easy concept for most people to handle. So if you're hanging out around a bunch of criminals all day long, and doing a bunch of drugs and having a bunch of weird sex and stealing and hurting people and doing all this other kind of thing, what are the odds of something related to that that's not good for you happening? Pretty good. At a minimum, if you're doing all these activities all day long, you're probably going to attract the attention of law enforcement, and this is going to cause you problems. On the other hand, if you hang out all day long around a bunch of successful entrepreneurs, if you hang out around a bunch of family people, if you hang out around people who care about the elders in their family and actively take care of them, what are you more than likely to encounter? This kind of thing. Again, it's not terribly complicated. You can get into higher level philosophical discussions about this, but they're largely counterproductive in terms of getting things done. All right, so how does this apply to meditation and magic? If you generate a lot of vital force or near physical force and actively convert this into more refined energy, what are you going to tend to encounter? More refined energy. And with the spirit world in particular, this is even much more clear. What most people don't understand is that when you encounter spirits, for lack of a better word, we can call them intelligences or whatever you want to call them, they tend to reflect off your character's traits. So those inherent energies you carry around with you, they reflect off of, and what you get in terms of your interaction with those entities is largely based off of that. So if you have a bunch of bad habits, you don't maintain physical cleanliness, you get into a bunch of trouble and your energy is really low, what do you think you're going to run into? Entities that reflect this. These are your more negative entities. On the other hand, if you're very healthy, very clean, have good habits, comport yourself well, take care of others, and are generous, that's generally what you're going to find when you encounter entities. Now, don't get me wrong, there are things out there that are entirely negative in origin, and there is absolutely no advantage to working with that. But a lot of times when people begin to engage in evocation and like spirit acts, they're surprised by what they run into. That's usually because most people doing this don't take the time to reflect upon the role of their personal behavior. So this is where people get a lot of things wrong. Ritual acts, ritual consecration, burning the right incense, taking a bath beforehand, invoking non-dual light, all go a long way towards mitigating that reflection off of a practitioner. But ultimately, you can't hide it. And this gets into the myth of the black hat magician as well, and we'll talk about that in a different recording. But the bottom line is, the best way to view how the universe is structured, and therefore to modify how you comport yourself within that structure, is to look at the universe from an energetic basis. This also makes figuring out what techniques to use to do certain things much easier. You simply note the kind of energy developed, and if that's something beneficial, then you go in that direction. If it makes you stronger and that's what you need, then there you go. If a practice makes you weaker and it's not helpful towards pursuit of your goals, then maybe you shouldn't do that either. So again, I'm not entirely ruling out the role of philosophy in all of this, but what I'm trying to explain is that the role of philosophy is frequently greatly overstated relative to simply looking at the energy used and how it's manipulated, giving you much simpler and much more concise answers. Let us begin.